Just about the time man, in all his wisdom, decides that he has this world and everything in it all figured out, along comes something he can't explain. Take the recent reports of the Lake Worth monster, or creature, or whatever you want to call it. Some who have seen it say it looks like a half man, half goat. Others, who are a little more conservative, describe it a little differently. The skeptical say it's a man in a monkey suit, but some say it can't be, that no man is that big, or that strong, or could make so hideous a sound. At any rate, something happened out here last night, and so tonight there will be more people back, armed with cameras and probably with rifles. And this causes apprehension, particularly for police who say that, monster or no, if there are very many rifles here, somebody might get hurt. Jerry Taff, Channel 8 News, at Lake Worth.
Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
My dog went flying through the air over the tree. I don't know how it did it.
Okay.
Deep in Bigfoot territory. Episode 25, The Lake Worth Monster. This is a Squatch Mafia documentary. Welcome to this episode of Bigfoot territory. At first, a big thanks to 25,000 subscribers at the Squatch Mafia YouTube channel, and to all our Patreon and YouTube members. Thanks a lot for the support. We got a ton of new Squatch Mafia videos planned for the coming weeks. So, let's start with today's video. Today, our story begins in the summer nights of early July of 1969, the last summer of the 60s. The summer of love will forever be remembered as the historic end of an era, as the world watched the moon landing, the Manson murders, Woodstock, and the withdrawal of the United States from the Vietnam War. But at Lake Worth, in Tarrant County in northeastern Texas, it was the summer of the monster. The story of the Lake Worth monster is filled with violence, including several attacks on livestock, pets, cars, and humans.
Well, it was about 7 foot tall, weighed about 350 pounds, and it was hairy, and I couldn't see his face. It was in the dark.
It wouldn't run through the trail that was up there. It'd run through the edge of the cliff that was pretty rugged and had a lot of weeds and trees around it, and I couldn't see how no human could really get through there as fast as it could.
The Lake Worth monster first made local headlines on July 10th of 1969 as two couples, who parked at a clearing along the shores of Greer Island at Lake Worth in the evening hours of July 9th, were attacked by the monster. The couples stated that around midnight, a large creature leapt onto their car from the trees above and tried to grab one of the women inside the car. The couples managed to speed off before the creature could pull the woman out of the window of the car. Police reports stated that the witnesses were totally terrified and described the beast as around 7 feet tall, bipedal, 250 to 300 pounds heavy, slope-shouldered, pot-bellied, and covered in white or grayish-brown hair. An 18-inch gash in the car's side, and the obvious fear of the witnesses led police to open a full investigation. The story appeared on the front pages of the local newspapers the next day, and immediately whipped Tarrant County into a summer of monster hunting frenzy. Interestingly, the first one to write about the case was a young local reporter from Fort Worth, named Jim Mars, who later would write numerous best-selling books on the JFK assassination, UFOs, and other topics. What the public at that point didn't know was that there had been reports of eerie encounters and nightly occurrences on Greer Island for more than 2 months. Multiple witnesses stated that something strange was roaming the woods around Lake Worth and the shores of Greer Island at night. We've had reports about this thing for about 2 months, but we've always laughed them off as pranks," a police dispatcher later told the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. But the damaged car and the shocking report of the witnesses finally changed minds of the local police. But obscure stories were already coming from the region around Lake Worth for many decades. Lake Worth was artificially created in 1914 and is situated on the western fork of the Trinity River. The lake lies entirely within the borders of the Fort Worth Nature Center and Refuge in Tarrant County, northwest of Fort Worth. The Nature Center, like the lake, was also established in 1914, officially to secure and protect the local watershed and drinking water quality of Fort Worth. The lake covers an area of 3,500 acres and reaches a depth of 22 feet in some places. The primary inflows of the lake come from Eagle Mountain Lake, and its primary outflow is the Trinity River. Greer Island, where many stories of the Lake Worth monster took place, is a small patch of land near where the west fork of the Trinity River flows out of the lake. It is heavily shaded by oaks, cedar elms, and cottonwood trees. Although it is called an island, it can be reached by car on a muddy dirt track, and its relative isolation made it a popular hangout for local teenagers. The first strange stories from Lake Worth date back to the late 1940s. In 1947, an alleged sea monster in Lake Worth, even observed and confirmed by police, made local headlines. The sea monster was described as having a head resembling that of a wild boar with tusks. Multiple UFO sightings were also reported from the lake in the late 1940s and early 50s. However, the first documented report of monkey-like creatures on the shores of Lake Worth dates from 1959, 10 years before the monster gained notoriety in the wider public. A strange story was reported, in which locals used bananas and a small dog to lure a monkey from the underbrush at Lake Worth. But however, the earliest stories from wider northeastern Texas that speak of encounters with strange monkeys or gorilla-like figures are of course much older than that. The first related newspaper articles from the region date back as far as 1883. Dozens of encounter reports followed in the late 19th and early 20th century. The Trinity River bottom is mentioned as early as 1901, as people reported seeing a tall, nude, and hair-covered Negro near Red Bank. The terrifying monstrosity was said to walk about on feet measuring 22 by 7 inches. In 1925, a San Antonio newspaper reported that a posse of 75 men, including policemen and multiple sheriffs, tried to capture a wild man in Atascosa County, in southeastern Texas. The article states that the wild man had terrorized women and children in the region for weeks and was now hunted with bloodhounds. Many other newspaper articles and reports speak of similar encounters in Texas from the 1880s to the 1960s. But the probably most famous wave of Bigfoot encounters in Texas began with the attack at Greer Island, at the shoreline of Lake Worth, in July 1969. As mentioned earlier, the incident was well researched and made front-page news the next morning. The name of the car driver was John Reichart. An 18-inch long scratch down the side of his car was examined by police. The next day, the forests around Lake Worth were filled with self-proclaimed monster hunters, reporters, and policemen. At this day, on the evening of July 10, 1969, the monster made its probably most legendary appearance. During the entire day, carloads of people, mostly armed with beer and rifles, arrived at the lake and at Greer Island. After nightfall, a group of 30 to 40 people had gathered at a clearing on Greer Island, including police, reporters from the Star-Telegram, and locals, all drawn by the rumors of a creature lurking near the lake. Suddenly, a towering white figure appeared on a cliff above the clearing and let out a bone-chilling scream toward the group of people. As fear and disbelief began to spread among the group, the probably most shocking and noteworthy event in the history of the Lake Worth monster occurred. From the cliff, an automobile tire and wheel was thrown with inhuman strength for more than 500 feet through the air towards the group of people, only barely missing some of the men. Disbelief turned into total confusion, and fear turned into sheer panic, as the men realized that the howling beast on the cliff had thrown the wheel and tire like a projectile for this shocking distance, and nearly killed some of them. The first people began to run to their cars and sped away, as the men were staring in shock at the tall creature that started to run along the cliff in an agitated way, screaming and howling at the group. A wave of panic gripped the entire group, and a reporter of the Star-Telegram later stated, "This was the most terrifying moment of my life for sure." Now everyone, including the police officers, tried to get away from the beast, and chaos ensued as people scrambled to escape. The men jumped into their cars and left the clearing with screeching tires. One man, by the name of Ronnie Armstrong, even backed his car into a tree trying to escape the area. The monster's anguished cries echoed through the clearing as it vanished into the forests, leaving only fear and confusion in its wake.
You said it took the tire off your pickup. What did it do?
No, it was not the tire off in our pickup. It was in a sand pit that they dug dirt from, and he threw a tire some 400 to 500 feet. And the police that looked at the tire in the back of the car said that it had to come off from a pickup. We didn't have no pickup there, so we had a Rambler, little Rambler out there.
Did it look like he was throwing the tire at somebody, or?
They'd thrown it at everybody, about 40 people.
It was up there on those cliffs, and it'd stay up there running back and forth. And it wouldn't run the whole distance around. It just run halfway around it and halfway back, and it wouldn't run through the trail that was up there. It'd run through the edge of the cliff that was pretty rugged and had a lot of weeds and trees around it, and I couldn't see how no human could really get through there as fast as it could.
Jim Mars later wrote that the witnesses described the creature as big, hairy, and white-looking. One witness stated that the creature walked like a man, but didn't look like a man. He was whitish-gray and hairy. He looked like he was at least 7 feet tall and must have weighed about 300 pounds. A man by the name of Jack Harris stated, "It threw the tire more than 500 feet, and it was coming so fast everybody took off." Its howls and screams were filled with pain and aggression, and sounded like something was seriously hurting it. The incident was of course covered by multiple local newspapers and TV stations, and made front-page news at the Star-Telegram and the Fort Worth Press. Nearly 40 people witnessed the monster that night in July of 1969. For the next several weeks there was fear and exhilaration in the air. It is said that 4 units of Fort Worth police were sent into the forests of the region in the following days. But the summer of the Lake Worth monster had only begun, and the series of strange incidents and attacks would not stop until winter of 1969. In the next weeks, the eerie reports from Tarrant County were piling up. Throughout the entire summer and autumn of 1969, bodies of dead sheep with broken necks were found in the pastures of the region, often strangely mutilated, with attack marks not resembling those of any known predator. Rumors circulated of cats, dogs, and other pets being ripped to pieces. Several ranchers reported numerous missing cattle or nightly attacks on cattle herds by a large, unknown animal. Many people saw the monster running through the forests and grasslands of the region, or had strange encounters at the lake in mid and late 1969, resulting in more police reports and newspaper articles. It was reported that at one point, over 100 people saw a set of tracks of more than 16 inches long footprints along the lake shore. Another shocking incident occurred in September of 1969, as a creature bluff-charged a group of 5 people who were fishing at Greer Island in the late afternoon. The creature ran towards the group and screamed at them before it ran into the forests and disappeared. As the creature was entering the tree line, it jumped and swung itself on a massive branch of an oak tree, approximately 14 feet up in the air, ripping the branch off the tree while doing so. The photo of the broken oak branch gained some notoriety and was published in numerous articles and books. This page is taken from the book The Lake Worth Monster by Sally Ann Clark. The group described the creature as a 7 to 8 foot tall, upright walking man or gorilla, with extremely long arms, a small waist, and covered with brown and grayish hair. They said the creature moved unbelievably fast and leaped at the branch with shocking ease. In late September, a few weeks after the fishermen's encounter on Greer Island, 3 men were driving at nighttime on the dirt road that connects the island to the mainland. The name of the car driver was James Stevens, a resident of Blue Mound near Fort Worth. The 3 men were driving the dirt road at around midnight, when a gigantic creature jumped from the trees above them onto the hood of their car. Stevens said that he swerved his car wildly across the road and tried to shake the creature off by rocking his car, but the monster on the hood did not let go until the man crashed into a nearby tree. The creature then jumped off the car and disappeared into the darkness of the forest. The men stated that the monster was at least 7 feet tall, probably taller, covered in thick white hair, and that the creature had burn scars over its face and chest. The repair costs for Stevens' Mustang took about $300, and the story of the Nocturnal attack was again published in various articles and books. The 3 men insisted that the monster was real, and in no possible way a man or a known animal. A drawing of the monster, based on the description of the 3 men, has survived through the decades. The next attack of the Lake Worth monster was documented in early November, as a man named Charles Buchanan was assaulted in the evening hours of November 7th after a fishing trip. The Fort Worth Press published a long article on the attack. Here is an excerpt from the newspaper article. "I was asleep in my sleeping bag in the bed of my pickup," Buchanan said. "I had put out trot lines earlier. I woke up when my pickup tipped. Something was lifting it. At first I thought it was an earthquake. Then," he said, "a hair-covered face heaved itself over the side of the pickup, and 2 long, hairy arms grabbed Buchanan, sleeping bag and all, and hoisted him in the air, and then dropped him. Almost overpowered by the critter's stench, Buchanan said he did the only thing he could think of. He grabbed for the barbecued chicken he'd bought earlier and thrust it, sack and all, at the monster's head. The monster," Buchanan said, "took it in its mouth, and with guttural noises, loped off through the trees, splashed into the water, and began swimming with powerful strokes toward Greer Island." Buchanan said, in its run through the trees, it toppled several 4-inch thick saplings. Buchanan described the critter as about 7.5 feet tall, and with long arms and short, stubby, deformed fingers. Estimating its weight at between 700 and 1,000 pounds, he said it was covered with hair, face and all, and looked like a cross between a human being and a gorilla or an ape. The article also states that a footprint of the creature was 18 inches long. The only known photo that was taken of the monster in 1969 was a Polaroid, shot by a man named Alan Plaster on the night of November 19th. He said he was driving west on Shoreline Road at 1:35 a.m. when he saw something stand up on the south side of the road. The man managed to take a photo of the strange creature while passing by in his car. He later stated, "Whatever it was, it wanted to be seen. It stood up as it saw the car lights." The blurry photo most likely shows the back of the creature, which looks like a massive white ball of fur. When we take a closer look at the photo, we can see the spine of the creature. Also, the back musculature as well as muscles on the arms and shoulders appear to be visible. Many local enthusiasts researched and documented the case of the Lake Worth monster back in its heyday. The most prolific researcher might have been Sally Ann Clark, who also published the book The Lake Worth Monster in December of 1969. Until her death, she believed that the monster was most likely a real phenomenon, and that it was nearly impossible to fake all the incidents and encounters. After her death, her husband stated in an interview that she always maintained the monster was real, and definitely not the work of pranksters. She offered a $5,000 reward for any person who could pass a polygraph, claiming that they were the monster. She never got a call, he stated. Interestingly, none of the newspaper articles, local reports, and books of 1969 referred to the monster as a Bigfoot or Sasquatch-like being. Even though the notorious Patterson-Gimlin film had gained nationwide interest into the legend of Bigfoot already 2 years earlier, it was always called the Lake Worth Monster, or sometimes the Greer Island Goatman, because of its white fur. The monster first became a part of the Bigfoot lore many years after the first recorded sightings in the summer of 1969. There are, of course, some rare videos that allegedly depict white or albino-colored cryptids. The most well-known may be the Pennsylvania albino Bigfoot. See the links in the video description for an enhanced version of the entire encounter. Interestingly, another video that allegedly shows a white Bigfoot was published by legendary Bigfoot researcher M.K. Davis and was, indeed, recorded on private property in eastern Texas. Much older than the reports from the 1880s and 90s, and the sightings of 1969, are of course the legends and myths of the natives of eastern and northern Texas. The Caddo, as well as the Kiowa, know numerous tales of large, human-like beings inhabiting the remote forests and swamps of the lands that would later become Texas. Both tribes feared these beings and referred to them as ancient and dangerous. They described these beings as extremely large and powerful, sometimes with supernatural or spiritual attributes. The natives of the region mostly avoided the lands they believed to be the territory of these beings. The Lake Worth monster became the subject of various books and documentaries over the decades. The most informative book might be the classic The Lake Worth Monster by Sally Ann Clark from 1969, which is extremely rare today, and also Lake Worth Monster, The True Story of the Greer Island Goatman by cryptid researcher Lyle Blackburn, from which many of the information in this video were taken. Today, the monster is one of the classics of cryptozoology in Texas. Since 2009, the Fort Worth Nature Center and Refuge has held an annual Lake Worth Monster Bash every October to celebrate the legend. As the year of 1969 came to an end, the reports of sightings of the monster also stopped, while other areas in eastern Texas became Bigfoot hotspots in the coming decades, and remain so until today. The region around Fort Worth never experienced a second wave of encounters. In total, more than 70 people claim to have seen the monster between July and November of 1969. Some even took lie detector tests. The monster was nearly always seen at nighttime, mostly between midnight and 4 a.m. The densely wooded and isolated area of Greer Island seemed to be the epicenter of the sightings of the Lake Worth monster. But since November of 1969, no further stories of the monster are known to the public. We will return to the Lone Star State for multiple episodes of Bigfoot territory in the upcoming months. What is your opinion on the Lake Worth monster and the stories coming from northeastern Texas? Let me know in the comments. Hit the like button if you have enjoyed this episode of Bigfoot territory. Subscribe to the Squatch Mafia channel at YouTube for more videos on Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Check out Squatch Mafia at Patreon and TikTok for extra content. Thank you for watching.